Hi, good evening, everybody. Just wanted to welcome you to our Cooking with Plants class. I'm Kelly Wilson, and I'll introduce myself in a moment, but just wanted to let you all know that you are muted and your cameras are turned off, um, just so we don't have any accidental interruptions during our conversation today and make sure that you get all the information from this course and have the best experience possible. But if you do have questions that arise during the course of our conversation today, please put them in the Q&A box or the chat box. My colleague Abby, who is online with us, will be monitoring that and interrupting me to ask questions and saving questions that we don't get to so we can answer them either via email or post the answers to the questions on the class website. It is 6:30 and we do have a lot to talk about together today. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. And there may be some people who are filtering in a little bit past 6:30 as they get back from work, and that's totally fine. So welcome to Cooking with Plants. I'm super excited that you all are here. We're going to have a great year together, covering a lot of really wonderful content. And I think whether you're here for the whole 12 months or you're here just for this class, I hope that you get a lot of good information that is inspiring you to add more plants to your plate. So who am I? I'm Kelly Wilson. I am a registered dietitian nutritionist, and I work here at Trinity Health Ann Arbor in our lifestyle medicine practice. I'm also board certified in lifestyle medicine. And what is that? Lifestyle medicine is a growing field within medicine that focuses on treating, reversing, and preventing chronic disease through 6 key pillars. So nutrition, which we're going to be focusing on today and throughout the year, is one of the foundational pillars. Movement and joyful movement, how we're moving our bodies throughout the day, is another pillar. Restorative sleep, avoiding risky substances, stress management, and social connection are all also pillars of lifestyle medicine. So our whole team, which is made up of registered dietitians like my colleague Abby and Laura, who's with me in our studio here today, we all focus on patient care through those 6 pillars, and it's really whole person compassionate care. So yes, we do talk a lot about nutrition and plant forward eating, which is a strong component of lifestyle medicine, but we also help people set goals and break down barriers in all of those pillar areas. In addition to lifestyle medicine, I've also done some training in culinary genomics, which is a fancy way of saying the art and science of how food and cooking influences your genes. So really cool that you can influence your genes by the foods that you put into your body for better or for worse. So we're going to learn about some of those tricks and strategies throughout the course of these classes. And I'm also trained in organic farming. So I did a certificate program at Michigan State University, was a farmer for a few years. So I have that hat that I bring to this conversation as well. My culinary philosophy, I think anybody can cook. So if you're new to this experience and you're feeling a little nervous or a little shy, that's totally fine. This class is still for you. And if you've been cooking for a really long time, this class is still for you. I'm sure there's going to be things that you could either teach me or you can teach the rest of the class as well. So feel free to drop your tips and tricks into the chat as well. We are a large class, so I'm sorry that we can't have a lot of verbal communication during these sessions, but please feel free to drop tips and tricks into the chat. I want cooking to be fun and delicious, so hopefully the recipes that you'll try during these classes, spark some new ideas for you and show you that eating plant-forward foods is really tasty. Actually, it's not just eating dry, boring salads. There's a lot of creative things that we can eat and cook together. And I also firmly believe that food is joy, and we don't just solely eat to nourish our bodies. So hopefully this food will bring you joy and you'll find some new recipes and things that you can connect with your family and friends and share with them. So I also mentioned that I'm here with my colleague Laura, and I have my colleague Abby on the line. So I wanted them to be able to pop their cameras on and say hello. Abby, did you want to say anything?
No, just
No.
welcome everybody. Excited to be here. We're in very capable hands with Kelly leading us tonight. And as she mentioned, please reach out with any questions over the chat and I'll be happy to address those. If they're kind of quick questions she can answer in the moment, I may interrupt and get those answers for you. Otherwise, please know that we'll be compiling any questions we don't get to and making sure that we post those answers on the website after class.
Thanks, Abby. And Laura Ritter's here in class with me.
Yep. I'm kitchen helper. So.
Thanks, Laura. It's very important and much appreciated. I also wanted to take a moment to mention too, I know this is the time of New Year's resolutions and everybody's setting like big audacious goals this time of year. If you're coming to these classes as part of some New Year's goal setting for yourself, please remember to start small. If this is a very new thing for you, dip your toe into the water and start building over time. Change takes time. It takes about 66 days to form a new habit. And research shows it's better to start small and go slow than to just dive right in and maybe overwhelm yourself. So keep that in mind and know that patience and persistence is really important. Change is not a linear process. It takes time. So be kind to yourself and be patient with yourself and know that our team, Abby, Laura, myself, Clisty, and Lisa, who are not with us here this evening, are all here for you. If you need support and you have questions, our contact information is on the class website I sent you and will be at the end of the presentation and on these slides. So please do not hesitate to reach out. Okay. All right, so quick overview of this series. Today, January 10th, we're talking about stocking your kitchen and your pantry. So this is really foundational and will help us as we move into these other classes. The goal is that all of these classes kind of build off of each other and empower you with skills and knowledge that will help you make this plant forward eating really easy for you to implement in your day-to-day life. If you can't make every class, that's totally fine. You're still going to get really great information, even if you're coming to one every once in a while. But again, the intention of the series is that we're kind of building skills and knowledge as we go. Like we might all be at different stages of knowledge in this process, and that's totally okay. Like Abby said, if you have specific questions that pop up during the course of our conversation today, and they're relevant to what we're talking about, and you think everybody would benefit from hearing the answer to them, please drop that in the chat or the Q&A, and she'll interrupt me, and I'll answer it in real time. If you have a question that's more related to your personal life circumstances and what you've got going on, please save that and email us and maybe consider scheduling a consult to dive deeper into your question and help you with some goal setting, okay? So think about that when you're deciding how to ask your questions. All right, so this is what we're going to be focusing on tonight. We're going to talk about what is whole food plant-based eating and why we're even talking about this in the first place. We're going to review some kitchen equipment essentials. So what basic things do you want to have on hand so that you can make this tasty food that we're going to be talking about? And then what pantry items do you want to keep stocked so that you can make fast, easy, healthy, whole food plant-based meals? And then we're going to do 2 really quick recipes that highlight ingredients that we've stocked in our whole food plant-based pantry. Okay, I know that's a lot to cover in the amount of time that we have together, but I think we can do it. And like I said, always ask questions, pop those in the chat if anything comes up. All right, and I did also want to share this information is general. You know, anybody can benefit from eating more plants, right? That's not generally a problem for people to eat more fruits and vegetables. However, if you have a specific health condition, there may be some content or certain ingredients that we talk about that may not apply to you. And so I encourage you that if you have a specific health condition, speak with your physician and your dietitian to talk about what might be best suited for your needs with your health condition. And if you don't have a doctor, a PCP, primary care physician, or a dietitian that you work with, please feel free to email us. The email is right there on the slide. These slides will be shared with you after class, so you don't have to worry about writing that down. Please email us and we will do our best to connect you with somebody who can provide some support and guidance for you. All right, so whole food, plant-based eating. What does that even mean? This class is going to be kind of less cooking focused. I should have said that to start with. We're going to be doing a lot of talking today, but that's okay. We're setting the stage and we'll do mostly cooking in the rest of our classes, okay? And I'm also going to be referencing some materials put out by the American College of Lifestyle Medicine. Don't worry about going and looking up those resources while we're in class today. Everything is on the class website that I sent you. And if you have an issue accessing them, please email us and I'll make sure you get the resources, okay? So whole food, plant-based eating. This plate is a pretty good example of what that looks like. This is again from the American College of Lifestyle Medicine. I realize everything's raw on this plate, so I want to assure you we are not advocating for a raw food diet. So rest assured, you can eat cooked food. It's totally fine. And actually cooking our food helps us absorb some nutrients better than eating them in raw form. And we'll talk about that throughout some of our classes. But I'm showing this plate because the American College of Lifestyle Medicine, one, is kind of our North Star and who we go to for a lot of information and resources grounded in solid scientific evidence. And two, it's beautiful, it's bright, it's colorful, and I wanted to show you how vibrant this way of eating is, and hopefully kind of spark some excitement for you with the wide variety and diversity that's included on this plate. So your picture may be kind of small, but I just wanted to point out what is on this plate. So you've got fruits and vegetables on the left-hand side. In that bottom, it's my right-hand corner. I'm not quite sure how it's pulling up for you, but where the orange bubble is, that's whole grains. And we're going to go into depth in March on whole grains, but these are things like brown rice, quinoa, and I'll show you some examples later on in class today so you can like see what those foods look like. Popcorn is a whole grain, cornmeal. We'll talk about those a little bit more in depth. And then that top right corner are your plant-based proteins. So beans, lentils, nuts, seeds, edamame, those types of things. And we're going to be cooking with all of those ingredients throughout these classes. Okay, so it doesn't have to be raw, lots of variety, lots of color. We're also talking about, like, when we say whole food, we mean just real food. So not food-like substances, food that has short ingredients lists. So think of like an apple or a head of broccoli. There's no ingredients list. It just is what it is. That is food that is closest to its grown form. We're talking more of those types of foods and less of the foods that have an ingredients list as long as your arm, okay? And some processing in food is totally fine. Just look for, when you're flipping over to the back of the package and you're looking at that ingredients list, make sure you can pronounce most of the words that you're reading and you recognize most of those ingredients as real food, okay? And I think a really good example, especially in this realm of plant-based eating, when we're thinking of, you know, real versus food-like substance, is in the realm of protein. So tempeh, which we'll cook with in our plant proteins class, is a fermented soybean loaf. And I'm sure that sounds so appetizing when I describe it that way, but I promise you it's actually really tasty and we will make some really yummy things with it. That is a whole food versus something like a garden burger or the other kind of plant-based meat substitutes. They have very long ingredients lists. If you look at them, there's a lot of fillers and binders and food that's not really in its whole form. Totally fine in a pinch or every once in a while, but that's not what we want to base the foundation of our protein in our whole food diet on. More tempeh, less processed meats. Okay, so that's kind of an example of what we mean when we're talking about this whole food lifestyle. And you don't have to get things from Whole Foods. Just want to clarify that a lot of these foods are available at Aldi, at Kroger, at Meijer, at all your normal grocery stores. You do not have to go to a special grocery store to get the foods that we're going to be talking about today. So why are we even focused and talking about plants in the first place? Well, first and foremost, plants, these plant foods, these whole plant foods are really nutrient dense. And what I mean by that is they've got a big bang for their buck in terms of nutrition per unit of energy, which is also known as a calorie. Okay, so a lot of a lot of nutritious ingredients for very little energy. Okay, so big bang for our buck when we're eating these foods. And then they're chock full of fiber, which is immensely important for our health. And I don't think we talk about it enough. My colleague Laura, who's here with me, is obsessed with fiber, and for very good reasons, like that are listed here on this slide, right? So fiber is what keeps us full. So it helps with satiety. It's really important for helping keep our blood sugar stable and regulated. It can help us balance our cholesterol. And I know some folks on your registration form mentioned that was a goal for participating in this class. So ensuring that you're getting adequate fiber can be helpful with that. And it can help lower rates of certain kinds of cancer. And it keeps you regular, so you have good poops, which is really important. Okay. And I've listed here on the screen the minimum recommended fiber intake. So 25 grams a day for women, 38 grams a day for men. I'm not asking you to count that out every day. I just wanted you to have those numbers as a ballpark reference point for you. So when you're looking at food labels and lists, you can get a gauge for, like, if I eat a serving of these crackers or I have this apple, how is that helping me get to my daily goal? Okay. So those are minimum recommended intake levels. And there is evidence that up to 40 grams per day is even more protective, especially if you have certain health conditions. So I would suggest, if this is new to you and you don't eat very many fruits and vegetables, maybe you do want to track just to see, okay, what does a typical day look like for me? And then you just start slowly working your way up. Don't go from, 5 grams of fiber a day to 40 grams of fiber a day. Your gut might bother you a little bit. Slowly start building up over time. All right. We also want to focus on plants because phytonutrients, phyto means plant, are only found in plant foods. And these are bioactive compounds that are associated with decreased risk in chronic disease because they turn on and off genes that are involved in those disease pathways. And they turn on and off genes that are involved in inflammation. And inflammation is the root of a lot of chronic disease. So these compounds, again, that are only in plant foods, are extremely important for our overall health and well-being. Okay. I have this picture here kind of showing a rainbow of fruits and vegetables, and you noticed on that plant plate that we had a wide variety of colors. That's because each of these colors represents a different bioactive compound that is influencing our health. So it's really important that we focus on eating the rainbow. Like, I am so badly trying to wrestle that away from Skittles. Like, we need to eat the rainbow of fruits and vegetables. If you want a Skittle every once in a while, sure, great. But like we're eating the rainbow with our fruits and vegetables. And that variety is key. So when you're thinking about, how you're starting in this plant-based journey, focus on color. Don't focus on counting calories or grams of fat or anything like that. Right now, focus on filling your plate with color and seeing how many colors you can get throughout the week or throughout the day. Because those are, again, a different compound that is influencing your health positively. All right, so if this is new for you, how do we start? I already mentioned start small. Okay, make changes that are realistic, that feel achievable. On the website that I sent you all, our class website, on the first page, there's a bunch of general resources. There are 3 really great resources on goal setting. One talks about SMART goals, like what those mean, how you set a specific goal. And another talks about finding your motivation or your yes or your why for being here. I highly encourage you, if you haven't had a chance to explore those resources, go to the website. Doesn't have to be tonight, but definitely before our next class. Spend some time reading and listening and reflecting on why you want to be here. What are you hoping to get out of these conversations? What are you hoping to get by adding more plants to your lifestyle? And then think about some realistic goals that you can set to help serve as benchmarks and guideposts along the way on your journey. Okay. And like I mentioned before, be patient with yourself and be persistent. If this is new for you, it's going to take time, and that's totally fine. You might not like get it right, or you might not love something that you make the very first time you try it, but keep trying, keep challenging yourself to explore and push yourself. And I promise you will learn some new things, and you will be surprised with what you like and what you're able to do by the end of this year. Okay. And I already mentioned count your colors. Don't focus on the calories. Think about filling your plate with vibrant foods. And begin with what you know. So if there are fruits and vegetables that you absolutely love, awesome. Start with those. And then we can start building and expanding your palette from there. But at least start with what you like. Okay. There's a grocery list on the class website that might spark some inspiration for some new things to try, some new fruits and vegetables. Feel free to use that to mark off what you already like, and maybe you take it to the grocery store with you and you star a couple new things that you're going to add to your cart to try. Okay. I'll share some resources for some cookbooks and some blogs that you can get recipes for a little bit later. Actually, I think it's my next slide, so shortly. And those can be tools to help you as you're trying these new things in between our classes. Okay. And then as far as your culinary skills, build on what you already know. Do you know how to saute? Do you know how to steam? Great. Start there. And maybe use that skill to prepare something that you haven't before. And then we can build together some new skills over the course of the class. And then, like I mentioned with the fiber, watch your water intake. As you start increasing your fiber, you definitely want to start increasing your water intake to help reduce any possibility of GI issues. So make sure that you're getting consistent water throughout the day as you're increasing your fiber. These resources, as you're kind of starting this journey and you're kind of getting your head around plant-based eating, these can be great tools. So these blogs, Crowded Kitchen's actually Michigan-based, OshiGlow's Minimalist Baker, Love and Lemons, all have really wonderful plant-based recipes. And remember, recipes are suggestions. So if you don't have to follow them perfectly, if you don't have something in your pantry, or there's an ingredient that maybe is a little too expensive, or you don't have the taste for something quite yet, swap it out. That's totally fine. And if you're ever confused about, what you might swap for certain things, you can ask in our classes, or you can shoot us an email, and I'm happy to give you some suggestions. These books, How Not to Die and Fiber Fueled, are really good introductions to the whole idea of plant-based eating. How Not to Die has a lot of scientific evidence cited to support this whole movement towards plant-based eating. So if you're looking for more of the research behind the why, that might be a good book for you. And then the cookbooks that are listed here are all ones that we use in our culinary studio, and we'll be cooking some recipes from these books throughout the class. So just wanted you to have that list as well. And again, you don't have to write this down. This is going to be uploaded to the class website, so you'll be able to access it right there. Okay, great. So now the fun part, well, hopefully that was kind of fun too, but now I get to show you all the equipment and all the pantry items. Okay, so we're getting to the meat of, well, not the meat. We're getting to the main event here. So why we're talking about pantry and why we're talking about all this kitchen equipment is so that you're really well set up to cook. So it's easy, it's convenient, and it's fun. Okay, there's a concept in cooking called mise en place, and it's French for everything in its place. And our conversation about this equipment and the pantry staples is just you helping you get everything in place. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing real quick, and we will come back to those slides in a second. But I'm going to start going through some equipment. And again, you do not have to write this down. There is a list you can if you want to, but there is a list on the website that is from the American College of Lifestyle Medicine that most of these tools that we're going to talk about are listed on there. So you have it already. Don't stress if you're not catching everything. Okay. First things first, this is an oldie but a goodie. Remember having this, my mom using it a lot. This is a steamer basket. So it has a nice little ring here. You stick this inside of a pot with a little bit of water on the bottom. You stick your veggies right inside and pop the lid on your pot. And you can steam your broccoli, you can steam your carrots, whatever it is that you're cooking. Really good tool for steaming. Thanks, Laura. And then this fun tool, totally not necessary, but this can be really helpful if you're either maybe growing greens in your backyard, or you're going to be eating a lot of salad mix that's not the pre-washed bagged stuff. This is a salad spinner. Okay, so it's got this little bowl in here. You press down and make it spin. So salad spinner. And the water flings off, and then you can pull out that inner bowl, and you've got your dry, fresh greens, which is pretty nice. So that's a good tool to have on hand, especially if you're going to be eating a lot of leafy greens, which I hope you will be. This tool right here, it's got a lot of little holes poked in it. This is a colander. So this is really helpful for straining your canned beans and rinsing those out, for your pastas, for anything that you want to drain a little bit of excess water or liquid off of. This is the tool that you want to use. You could also use, we've got this wire mesh strainer here. It's a little wet because we used it a little bit earlier, so I'm dumping water all over myself right now. But this wire mesh strainer could also work. I just don't love this for pasta because if you're pouring hot water and you're holding it, it leaves your arm in the way of potentially getting burned with the hot water. So I like the colander more for those purposes. But if this is all you have, it totally works. Okay. Thank you, Laura. Laura's helping me by clearing stuff out of the way. Cutting boards, super important. So this is just a white plastic cutting board. Totally fine. These are great, easy to clean. You could use wood as well. I also really like, this is a flexible plastic cutting board. This one's really big. They have ones that are about half this size, and I'd recommend maybe that size. But what I like about these is that after you've chopped up all your veggies, you can just fold this and dump into your pan. It makes it really easy. I find I drop a lot less food when I have this and I'm moving it to my stove to saute or whatever else I'm doing with it. Okay. Another fun thing that's totally not necessary, but does make working with citrus a lot more enjoyable. This is a juicer, a handheld juicer. So you put the cut side of the citrus, you cut like a lime or a lemon in half, and you put the cut side down in here and just squish, and the juice comes out of the holes in the bottom here. Very handy for if you're adding acid to finish a dish, or you're juicing some fresh citrus for making a salad dressing. Thank you, ma'am. A can opener. I think most of us know what these look like. You don't have to have a fancy one. This is just a standard basic can opener. As long as it gets the can open, you're fine. So solid one of those is good. A vegetable peeler. So not all vegetables have to be peeled, but it's nice to have one for tough skins that the texture might not work in the dish that you're working with. I personally really like these Y ones. You could use the normal like stick ones too, but I just like how these fit in your hand. It feels really stable to me. So this is personally what I prefer, but you might have a different preference and that's totally fine. You want some, where did my spatula go? Oh, it's right here. Okay, so we're going to talk about pots and pans in a second, but I wanted to show you, these are silicone spatulas. So this one is kind of your normal like flipping spatula. And this one is more of like a scooping and scraping spatula. I personally really like this shape because I can, scoop up kind of soupy things. I can still scrape the sides of a bowl. I can mix things with this. So this is much more versatile than just the flat spatulas, mixing spatulas you might see. Why we're talking silicone is because if you have metal pots and pans, whatever kind of pots and pans you have, these prevent scratches and they help increase the longevity of your pots and pans, especially if you're working with non-stick. You do not want to scratch those non-stick surfaces. So these are going to help you prevent that. So silicone. Okay. A ladle is a really nice tool to have for soups and broths and things of the sort. So definitely recommend something like this. You could use a measuring cup if you don't have one as well. But again, long handle is going to keep you from getting burned by steam or the hot liquid. So this is what I prefer. They're also not that expensive. Okay, and then you want to make sure you've got a good set of mixing bowls. So you definitely want a few different sizes for different applications. These are just, a really basic metal bowl set. I think we got them on Amazon. So they were very affordable. Again, it doesn't have to be fancy. It just has to hold stuff and work. All right, let's talk knives real quick. So knives don't have to be expensive. They just need to be sharp and you need to take good care of them in order to keep them sharp. So there are really like 3 or 4 knives that you need. This one right here is a chef knife. Now, a chef knife is more, see how it's a little bit more rounded at the tip here? This is going to allow us to make more of a rocking motion when we're cutting. And that's really nice for dicing and getting food into small pieces. So this is like a good all-around kind of workhorse knife. Now, I do want to show you on this knife how we hold a knife, and we'll go into this in more depth in some of our subsequent classes, but pinch between your thumb and your forefinger and wrap your 3 fingers around the base, and that's how you hold the knife. Okay, it's really sturdy. It might take some time to get used to it, but this is how you want to hold the knife for safety purposes. Okay, the Next knife, this is a Santoku knife. So unlike the chef's knife, it's got more of a flat blade, less of a rounded end. And this is really valuable for thinly slicing things. So if you're going to do a lot of shaving of your vegetables, you might want to have this on hand. You can still do that with a chef's knife, certainly. And that's not a problem. This just provides a little bit more stability. So you may want one of these too. You definitely want to have a serrated knife. So serrated, like saw-like, so you can see it's got little teeth here. This is going to be helpful for cutting through bread and through thin-skinned things like your tomatoes. So you get nice slices without mushing the tomato and juicing it everywhere. We don't want that. Okay, and then last but not least, a paring knife. So this is really, it's a very small knife, very helpful for peeling and coring things. So if you wanted to, take the stem part out of a tomato, this is kind of what you're using, or peel an apple, not using the vegetable peeler, this is what you're using. Okay, thank you, Laura. And then last but not least, pots and pans. So this is a saucepan. Okay, so it's deep. This one is a 3-quart saucepan. You probably want a 3 or a 4-quart, which 4 quarts is a gallon, saucepan for cooking things like beans and grains. This is about a good size for those types of things. And then we've got a stock pot. So this probably can hold like 3 gallons. I'm holding up right here. This is better for soups and like large batch cooking. So if you're wanting to do some bulk preparation or making some soups and things, this could be a good tool. Or you're cooking for more than a couple people, this could be a really good tool for that. All right, and then pots and pans. So you definitely want a fry pan. 2 different sizes is valuable. This is a 12-inch. 10-inch is kind of standard too, so definitely want one of those. Okay, so those are our basic kitchen essentials. And remember that list is on the website. So if there's anything you forgot, feel free to go reference that. One other thing I didn't mention that's helpful, a box grater for getting, grating carrots, grating radishes, things like that. It just is nice to have that different texture. And sometimes grated foods have a better application in some salads and things that we'll be making. All right, so now on to food, and then I'll show you 2 quick recipes. All right, so I said that we're going to talk about grains in our March class, we're going to talk about grains. Yes, in March, we're going to talk about beans next month. But I just wanted to show you some examples of what these foods look like so that you can start recognizing them when you go out to the grocery store. So these are all whole grains that I'm going to show you, by the way. So this is millet. It's kind of yellowish in color, small. If you've ever filled a bird feeder, you may recognize this because it's in some bird seeds. I promise you're not just going to be eating bird food throughout this whole year. Millet just happens to be something that's also in birdseed, but it's very tasty. It cooks in 20 minutes. You can use it in a wide variety of ways, salads. I just use it kind of as a side dish. It's kind of got a nutty flavor, so that's really fun and tasty. Wild rice. So you might see this in the grocery store or in your bulk bin. It's long, skinny, black grains, also a whole grain. Sorghum, which, this is one example of packaging. And I should say, if I'm holding up food that is of a specific brand, I'm not necessarily endorsing that specific brand. It just happens to be what I have right now. But you can find a lot of these foods in a lot of different brands. Okay. Bob's Red Mill is pretty common at Meijer and Kroger, so it may just be one that you see more of. Sorghum, I'm going to pull out and show you with hand. That's going to be a little bit easier. is a little bit bigger kernels or grains or seeds, excuse me, a little bit bigger seeds than your millet. It's maybe, I don't know, 3 or 4 times the size of the millet. This is also a nice side dish. This does take a little bit longer time to cook. So if you have an Instapot or a multi-cooker or a rice cooker, this would be one of those grains that would be helpful to cook in that. Quinoa is another whole grain that we talk about. This is a tricolor blend. You'll see it as just straight white, or you might see it as just straight brown. This one happens to be the blend. They're all fine. They're all healthy. The white isn't processed like white rice. It's just that is the color of the grain, so it's still a whole grain. Buckwheat is another really nutty, really tasty grain, really good for making grain salads with. Fun seed, it's kind of like a triangle. Hopefully you can see that. So that's kind of a fun, different one. And then I also want to just show you a couple different examples of whole grain pasta. So this is a brown rice pasta. For a lot of people, it happens to be gluten-free because it's brown rice. A lot of people who are making the switch to whole grains from like white pastas can't even tell the difference with this. I serve this to my dad, who's very picky, and he loves it just like he loves his normal pasta. So this is a brand that I definitely would recommend. And then I also wanted to point out too that there are bean-based pastas that exist. So if you're looking to add a little bit more protein to your pasta dish, like you're not going to add lentils like we're going to do for our pasta later this evening, these can be a great tool for making sure you're getting protein with your plant-based meal. They cook just like regular pastas. There are lentil, garbanzo bean. I've seen black bean. There's all sorts of different bean-based pastas, also readily available at pretty much every grocery store. Okay. I also wanted to point out too that you don't have to buy these whole grain foods in their raw, dry form. Please take shortcuts if it helps you get these important foods into your diet and makes life easier for you. I do it all the time. There's like no shame, no problem with it. This is one example of a brand that has whole grains already cooked in pouches. You stick it in the microwave or you dump it in your pan and you warm it up, or you would just toss it in your bowl right away and it's good to go. So feel free to stock your pantry with these kinds of things for when you're in a pinch and you need something really quick. Great. All righty. So we also want to make sure we've got some canned goods. Thank you, Laura, that's heavy. Some solid canned goods on hand for quick throw together dinners and meals. Really valuable to have canned beans on hand. So these are kidney beans, black beans, garbanzo beans, white beans, whatever beans you like. Stock your pantry with them to have easy protein to add to your meal. There's also even, I tried for the first time, canned lentils. So instead of having to cook lentils, which, take 10 to 20 minutes, it's not that long, but still sometimes we don't even have that much time. You can buy canned lentils. So these are from Meijer. I think they were $2 or something like that. So not too expensive. And they're ready to go. You just rinse them, plop them in your meal. Also really valuable to have a variety of tomato products on hand. So these go really well in soups and stews, and we're going to make a quick chili. That's what I'm using this for later. And to add flavor to sautés or stir fries. So having diced tomatoes, pasta, sauce, tomato paste, things like that. This is the pasta sauce that we're going to use for our recipe later. We're going to do a quick lentil pasta. And I'm showing you this, again, not because it's a particular brand that I think you should buy, but just as an example of a pasta sauce that doesn't have added sugar. So one thing when you're shopping for pasta sauce, look at the ingredients list, just like you would with most things that you pick up, and make sure that sugar is not listed as an ingredient, or like a sugar substitute, or sucralose, or an artificial sweetener, something like that. This is Kroger's brand. Again, I think it was like $2.30 for the jar, so not too expensive. And it's just tomatoes, olive oil, salt, and spices. So this is kind of what you're looking for. The oil is another thing to watch for on there. A lot of the pasta sauces will have vegetable oil or canola oil. You want to try to aim for ones that have olive oil. It's a little bit healthier, more anti-inflammatory fat that we're focused on. So speaking of olive oil, we'll go there. Extra virgin olive oil, cold pressed, that's what you're looking for. If you can get it in a glass jar that has a colored glass, that's ideal. It'll help it stay fresher longer, but really just making sure that you're getting olive oil and using this for cold, like lower temperature applications. So salads, light sauteing. And then we've got avocado oil. Okay, which this brand also happens to be in a dark glass jar. This can withstand higher temperatures. So this is good for, high heat sauteing. If you're gonna roast things in the oven above 350 degrees, you want to be using your avocado oil. Okay. All right, what else do we want to keep on hand? I really like having a couple jars of hominy. So this is a type of corn that has gone through a process that helps niacin, which is a B vitamin, be more bioavailable. It's nutty, it's chewy, it adds fun texture to soups and stews and chilies. So I like having that on hand as a catch-all. Dried mushrooms. Get some good antioxidants in your soups and stews without having to chop them up. You just throw a handful right in. Those are good to have. And then some nuts and seeds. So I have an example of some sprouted pumpkin seeds. They don't have to be sprouted. You just want to look for raw as much as possible, or lightly salted. Trying to avoid like canola oils or vegetable oils, those things on our nuts and seeds. And then chia seeds. So it's not a chia pet. We're not growing anything from it. We're going to make in another class some chia seed pudding. So this is a really good way to add omega-3 fatty acids, a little bit of protein to your foods, some fiber. It's really a healthful food, and you can add it to oatmeal, to soups, to stews, to casseroles, all sorts of places. So I like having these on hand. Also, that chia seed pudding makes a really good breakfast option. Okay. And I also promised you that we're going to be eating flavorful food, right? So I want to talk about some things that we can keep in our pantry to help enhance the flavor of the food that we're making. Okay. One of those things, miso. So this is it's a paste, and it's fermented. Usually it's soybeans with some type of grain. This happens to be chickpeas with brown rice. We have that in my house because my partner doesn't eat soy, but you could have regular soy-based miso. This I got at a co-op. So, but I do believe you can find this at Meijer as well. I'm not sure on Kroger. This is really helpful for adding another layer, a depth of flavor, like a savory umami, if you've heard that word, kind of flavor to, again, soups and stews. Some people use it when they make cookies, chocolate chip cookies with this is supposed to be pretty tasty too. So good application to if you're quickly trying to add some good yummy flavor and get some healthful fermented foods in your life. Tahini. So this is ground sesame paste. It's like peanut butter, but it's sesame seeds instead of peanuts. Really good for making quick dressings, and so creamy dressings that don't have dairy in them. Tahini is a really good friend in that department. Also really good for getting some kind of cheesy flavor without cheese, nutritional yeast. So you can get this in the bulk section at some grocery stores. This Bragg's is a brand that I've seen in a lot of different grocery stores as well. It's yeast, it's dried, and there's some B vitamins added to it. It kind of has a Parmesan-like flavor. So in my house, we use this on top of pasta, on top of popcorn, sprinkled on top of salads. It just adds kind of a nice, yummy, cheesy flavor. Mustards, so it could be Dijon or stone ground, or regular yellow, whatever you like. I like using these for making quick salad dressings. Okay, so this is a valuable tool to have on hand if you want to whip up a tasty dressing. Then we've got several different kinds of vinegar. So this is apple cider, white rice vinegar, brown rice vinegar, and some balsamic vinegar. All these different vinegars can help kind of add a little sparkle and pizzazz to a dish. So say you're sauteing greens, adding a little splash of vinegar can just make them pop a little bit more. Also really good for making salad dressings in a pinch. A salad dressing, and we're going to go through this in another class, is really just oil, vinegar, and some spices mixed together. So if you have different vinegars on hand, you can play around with different flavor profiles to fit whatever salad or grain bowl that you want to dress. Right. And last but not least, another yummy tomato product, salsa. I love it. I put it on everything. This is a really good thing to have if you're taking one of those pre-cooked rice packets. You got some frozen veggies and maybe some beans that you're throwing into a bowl for a really fast lunch or dinner. Throw a bunch of salsa on it. You got some good flavor, and you're good to go. Okay. All right. I know I talked probably pretty quick to get through all of that and shared a lot of different things and maybe some things that were new to you. So if you have questions, again, please email us or pop it in the chat. Happy to talk further about any of these ingredients.
Hey, Kelly.
Yes,
Before we
Abby.
move on, there were a few questions that came through the chat that were relevant that I think will be pretty quick to answer.
Perfect. Great.
Can you reshare that brand of whole wheat pasta that you said even your picky father-in-law was
Yes.
enjoying?
Laura, can you hand me that pasta bag? The Tinkiata, the pink bag. Pink bag. Right to your left. Or right. Yeah, you're right. Sorry. The other way. Thank you. Okay. Sorry. This is the brand. It's actually not wheat pasta, it's rice pasta, and the brand is called Tinkiata. Hopefully you can see that. There you go. On the screen.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Another question that came through was, you spoke a little bit about olive oil and avocado oil. Any quick thoughts on vegetable or canola oil?
Yeah, so I don't recommend using vegetable or canola oil. They're highly processed and more on the inflammatory side. So I would suggest if you're going to cook with oil, use avocado oil and use the extra virgin olive oil for that light temperature cooking, or for the salad dressings.
Perfect. And I think I also touched in the chat on just even broth or water for a saute
Yes,
can work
totally.
well as well.
Yeah.
In the last,
so much.
Oh, sorry. The last question, we have a participant that said she really enjoys whole fruits and vegetables blended to a smoothie form.
Sure.
Does that impact the fiber content?
Yeah, great question. If you're eating the whole food and you're not like juicing it, you're still getting all that fiber. So you are just fine to eat your fruits and vegetables that way.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Okay. Thanks for those questions, everybody. Appreciate that. And I'm sorry with the large group size that we can't be more interactive, but I'm excited that you're all here and hopefully the Q&A is working for folks. Okay, so I promised 2 recipes. We're going to do those real quick, and we may be a couple minutes over, but I want to make sure we get through these. So the first thing we're going to do is pantry chili. So this is a fabulous meal if you're like, oh crap, I have to get dinner on the table. I've got 20 minutes. What am I going to do? Well, look at you. You have stocked your pantry and your freezer, which I didn't talk about, but I will mention, with some really good things that are going to make it easy for you to pull dinner together. So you're going to grab your stock pot or, a bigger stew pot. Doesn't have to be quite this big. And you're going to dump in, show you right here, 1 bag of frozen corn, 1 bag of frozen kale. Okay, that's what's in here. And then you're going to take one of the large cans. I think this is 28 ounces of diced tomatoes, juice and all. Dump it into your pot. And then a can of kidney beans, a can of pinto beans, a can of black beans. Laura generously drained all of these for me and rinsed them already. So that's what's in this bowl, is all 3 of those cans. I'm going to dump it in there. And then in my spice bowl here, I've got a tablespoon of garlic powder, a tablespoon of oregano, and a tablespoon of chili powder. Okay, so all of that's going in here. And again, remember, I need my spatula. Thank you. Sorry. And remember that these recipes are going to be on the website after class, so don't feel like you have to write this all down. Okay, then I'm just stirring this up, and I'm putting it on the stove, boop, until it gets warmed through, and those flavors from those spices start to infuse the dish. And then you can serve that with whole grain bread or crackers. You could serve it with brown rice. You could top some whole grain pasta with that if you preferred. But that was really quick and easy. And, the longest part is just letting it get warmed up. Okay, really fast, really easy meal. The other thing, could you get me one of the small mixing bowls? Small, yeah, perfect. Thank you. Okay, so another really fast thing, because again, you have canned lentils in your pantry. You've got delicious pasta sauce in your pantry, and you've also got whole grain spaghetti in your pantry, and your freezer had some bags of frozen veggies. We can make a really quick Whole Foods plant-based pasta. Okay, so got my can of lentils in this pan. And Laura and I were talking earlier, and the canned versus, you could totally cook your own. If you have the 20 minutes to cook your brown lentils, great, go for it, do it. The canned might actually be nicer in this application because they're a little softer. And so they'll blend with the sauce, and maybe you enjoy that texture a little bit more. But either way is fine. So these just happen to be canned. We're going to take our jar of pasta sauce, pour it in to our, I realize you can't see me, I'm pouring it into my container here. Sometimes what I do, see how the sauce is all kind of stuck to the jar? I'll put a little bit of water in the jar, shake it up, and then dump that into my container as well to make sure I'm getting all the good bits. Okay. And then I'm going to give this a quick little stir. Okay. And then I'm just going to heat this up on the stove until it gets warm. While that's happening, I have cooked some pasta and drained it. And I have dumped my bag of frozen veggies into a microwave safe container, zapped them in the microwave for a couple minutes until they're warm. You could also saute these on the stovetop with a little bit of, like Abby said, vegetable broth or water or oil. And then I'm good to go. So I'm going to put a little bit of our pasta. So I'm going to put all of our pasta, because it's a big bowl, into here. You just top with a scoop or however much of the pasta sauce that you want. Okay. You dump your veggies and voila, you have a really fast, whole food, plant-based dinner that's tasty, ready to go. And you have some nutritional yeast in your cupboard, so you can add a little Parmesan-y flavor to this if you so desire. Okay, so I know, again, we went kind of fast tonight, but I promise you there'll be more demonstration in future classes. Hopefully this was valuable and you learned some new things, you got some new ideas. Remember that a lot of this information is going to be referenced on the class website. So if you didn't get a chance to write something down or I went too quickly, you can reference the website to get some additional information and to refresh your memory. And please ask questions. I'm going to pop up my slides again real quick just to show you how to get to the class registration page. So bear with me. It's thinking, it's there. Okay. So got a couple QR codes for you. So the code under class registration, if this is the only class you registered for and you want to register for the rest of the series, scan that. It'll take you to the registration page and you can sign up for the rest of the classes. The website, I sent the website in my email yesterday, or for some of you it was this morning. If you were having a hard time connecting, try scanning this QR code. That should take you directly to the website. If for some reason you still can't connect, reach out. We'll get you connected. This is our email address. So if there are any questions that we didn't cover today that you would like an answer to, please email us and I will do my absolute best to get you a response. Or if you want to have a more in-depth conversation, you're ready to kind of dive right into this plant-based life, or you have other nutrition questions or lifestyle medicine questions you want to cover, please scan this QR code. It'll take you to our lifestyle medicine website and you can schedule a consultation with one of our lifestyle medicine certified dietitians. Thank you so much for spending some of your Tuesday night with us. Really appreciate it. Really, I'm excited that you're here and I'm really looking forward to cooking with you the rest of this year. I'm only 2 minutes over, so I feel pretty good about that. And I'm going to let you go and get on with the rest of your evening. Have a wonderful night and happy cooking.